There is a corridor on the 14th floor of a Las Vegas hotel that looks exactly like every other corridor. The carpet is a dizzying geometric pattern, designed to hide wine stains and cigarette burns and the slow drag of suitcase wheels. The sconces cast a jaundiced glow. The ice machine hums a low, mechanical lullaby. It is, by every standard, unremarkable. But there is a door. Room 666. And the moment you slide the key card into the slot, the moment the lock clicks open with that cheerful, plastic chirp, you feel it. A pressure change, a density in the air, as if the room has been holding its breath, waiting for you. Step inside. Notice how the silence here is different. It is not the soft, living quiet of an empty room, it is a heavy, muffled quiet, the kind that settles after a scream has been abruptly cut short. The curtains hang perfectly still, yet you catch them twitching in the corner of your eye. The mirror above the dresser reflects you, but a beat too late, as if it has to remember your face. And then the television turns on by itself, just a flicker, just static, just for a second. The air conditioner rattles in the wall like a cough. They call it a mechanical fault. They call it a draft. But you know, the moment you set your suitcase down, that you are not alone in the usual sense. You are not sharing the room with a ghost of bone and memory. You are sharing it with the memory of panic itself, the sharp tang of adrenaline left behind by 100 terrified guests who stood exactly where you are standing, listening to the walls breathe. You tell yourself it is just a number. It is just a room. But the night is long in Las Vegas, and in room 666, the dark does not wait for sunset. It waits under the bed. It waits in the closet with the door slightly ajar. It waits inside the black mirror of the dead television screen, patient as a spider, ancient as a curse. And it knows your name. The unremarkable exterior is the predator's first and finest trick. When we imagine a chamber of dread, we picture gargoyles and rusted iron, corridors of dripping stone and corridors that groan under the weight of centuries. We expect the architecture to confess its sins before we cross the threshold. But true horror does not announce itself. It wears a mask of beige. It carpets itself in synthetic fibers the color of sand, patterned with burnt umber and teal in a geometry so aggressively neutral it could be found in a Tampa Holiday Inn or a Sacramento Marriott. There are no clues in the hallway. There are no flickering bulbs or sudden temperature drops, no spectral figures lingering by the ice machine. The fire exit map is bolted to the wall in regulation plastic. The emergency lighting glows a calm, corporate green. Everything is code compliant. Everything is approved by a hospitality review board. Everything is designed to reassure. This is the camouflage of the mundane, and it is the most effective camouflage there is. Because when horror wears beige, we let our guard down. We drop our bags on the king-sized sleigh bed. We run our fingers over the generic acrylic art, a blurred photograph of a sand dune, perhaps, or a single calla lily in a vase. We check the mini bar, note the absence of peanuts, test the weight of the hairdryer in its fabric pouch. We are not victims entering a haunted grove. We are consumers. We have paid for this experience. We expect fresh towels and a mint on the pillow, not a rendezvous with the infinite. And this dissonance, between what the room promises and what it contains, is where the terror takes root. A castle is supposed to be haunted. A decaying asylum, a cemetery at midnight, these places have signed a contract with the supernatural. We enter them braced for the chill, but a non-smoking room on the 14th floor. That is supposed to be safe. That is supposed to be boring. So when the hair rises on the back of your neck in a room that smells faintly of lavender sanitizer, your mind rejects the evidence. It searches for rational explanation. Faulty wiring, low-frequency hum from the ventilation, jet lag. The brain works overtime to preserve the illusion of normalcy, because to admit that this generic, beige, utterly forgettable rectangle is a gateway to something ancient and predatory is to admit that safety is a lie we tell ourselves. The room's ordinariness is not an oversight. It is architecture's perfect crime. There are no gargoyles here because gargoyles warn you. Gargoyles repel evil, they do not harbor it. But the evil of room 666 requires no sentinels. It does not need to impress or intimidate. It has learned that the most efficient way to trap a modern human is to offer them what they expect: a clean bathroom, blackout curtains, a television with 47 channels. You walk in and see 1,000 identical rooms you have occupied before. You exhale. You think, this is fine. And that exhale is the door swinging shut on the cage. Silence is the room's native language, but it is not an empty silence. It is not the soft, ambient quiet of a forest at dusk or the comfortable stillness of a library where the only sound is the turn of a page. That kind of silence breathes. It has texture and warmth and the gentle rhythm of life continuing just outside the frame. The silence of room 666 is a held breath. It is the silence that follows a slammed door, the silence of a telephone that has stopped ringing but has not been hung up properly. You notice it the moment the door clicks shut behind you, that hydraulic sigh of the closer, and suddenly the hallway might as well be 1,000 miles away. The muffled thrum of the elevator, the distant chatter of housekeeping carts, the faint bass of a television from 3 doors down, all of it vanishes, swallowed whole. You are alone with the quiet, and the quiet is not empty. It is waiting. This silence has weight. It presses against your eardrums like a change in altitude, that dull ache you feel in the pressure chamber of an airplane. You swallow, trying to clear it, but the sensation remains. The air itself feels thick, viscous, as if the room is filled with something other than oxygen and nitrogen, something that resists the passage of sound waves. You speak, just a word, just testing, and your voice comes out wrong. Muffled, dampened, like shouting into a pillow. The room does not echo. It absorbs. It drinks your words before they can travel 6 inches from your lips, and the silence swallows them without a trace. You realize, with a chill that starts at the base of your skull, that if you screamed in this room, no one would hear you. Not because the walls are thick, but because the silence is hungry. And yet, it is not total. That is the insidious thing. Total silence would be a relief, because total silence is absolute, a void that contains nothing. But this silence is selective. It erases certain sounds while leaving others, and you cannot predict which ones will survive. The rustle of your jacket sleeve, gone. The soft squeak of your shoe on the carpet, gone. But the hum of the mini fridge compressor cycles on and off with surgical precision, each click louder than it has any right to be. The digital display on the alarm clock emits a high, thin whine that drills into your temple. And beneath it all, so faint you convince yourself it is tinnitus, there is something else. A rhythm, not quite a heartbeat, not quite a breath, but a pulse. Slow, regular, patient. You hold your own breath to listen, and the silence seems to lean closer. It has no face, no form, but you feel its attention settle on you like a blanket of cold water. The room is not dead. It is dormant, and your presence, your breathing, your blood moving through your veins, the subtle electrical hum of your nervous system, has disturbed its hibernation. The silence is not the absence of sound. It is the absence of you. It is what the room sounded like before you arrived, and it is what the room will sound like long after you are gone. It existed before you and it will exist after you, and your little noises, your little life, are merely an interruption. An irritant. A single cough in a cathedral vault. And the silence is waiting, with infinite patience, for you to finish. The threshold is not merely a line of tile and carpet. It is a membrane, a separation between worlds so profound that crossing it should require ritual, prayer, at the very least a moment of hesitation. But we are modern people, and we have reduced the crossing of thresholds to a transaction. We swipe plastic through a slot, wait for the green light, and push. The door swings inward on well-oiled hinges. We step from the liminal space of the corridor, that anonymous artery of transit, neither here nor there, into the private geography of the room. It takes less than 2 seconds. In those 2 seconds, we shed the hallway like a snake sheds skin, and we do not look back. But the door closes. That is the moment. Not the crossing, but the closure. The soft pneumatic sigh of the closer, the gentle click of the latch engaging, the sudden absence of the corridor's ambient hum. It is a sound of such finality, such absolute severance, that your spine responds before your mind does. A primitive chill, the kind your ancestors felt when the cave mouth sealed behind them and they realized they were not alone in the dark. The hallway, with its witness and its escape routes, its fire stairs and elevator banks, is gone. You are inside now, and inside is different. You tell yourself you can leave anytime. The door is right there. It has a lever handle, not a knob, it complies with ADA regulations. You could cross that threshold again in the same 2 seconds it took to enter. But you do not. You stand with your suitcase handle still extended, your keycard still between your fingers, and you do not move. Because some part of you, older than reason, understands that the door will not open the same way twice. That the act of crossing is not reversible. That you have passed through a boundary that does not appear on any architectural blueprint. This is the room's oldest magic. It does not lock you in. It convinces you to stay. It wraps itself around you with the weight of jet lag, the inertia of travel fatigue, the small rationalizations that pile up like sediment. You paid for the night. Your bag is already on the luggage rack. The bathroom light is on and the mirror is fogging. You have already committed to this space, this air, this silence. To leave now would be to admit that something is wrong, and you are not ready to admit that. Not yet. So you place the key card on the dresser. You unzip your suitcase. You perform the small domestic rituals that transform a hotel room from a stranger's space into your own. And with each action, you drive the stake deeper. You are building a nest in the predator's mouth. Later, when the television flickers and the curtains move against a sealed window, you will look at the door. It will be right there. Same lever handle, same brass finish, same green exit sign bleeding under the gap. But it will have become something else. Not an exit, but a feature of the wall. Not a passage, but a decoration. The threshold will have rotated 90 degrees, no longer a portal to elsewhere but a boundary that contains you. You will approach it, touch the cool metal, and find that your hand does not want to press down. The room will sigh, very softly, and you will understand that the door never locked you in. It simply waited for you to realize you do not want to leave. The threshold accepted you, and thresholds do not surrender what they have swallowed. The gaze arrives before you have named it. It is there in the first moment you turn your back to the room, reaching for a hanger in the closet, and the fine hairs on your nape rise in a wave. You spin, expecting a figure, a face, the impossible violation of a stranger standing where no stranger should stand. But there is nothing, only the bed, made with military corners. Only the dresser, its surface polished to a high, sterile shine. Only the mirror, which reflects you and nothing else. And yet the sensation persists, that unmistakable pressure of attention, the weight of eyes that do not exist. You tell yourself it is exhaustion, imagination, the overactive vigilance of a traveler alone in a strange city. But the feeling does not fade. It deepens, because the room is not looking at you. The room is watching you. This is a distinction the mind struggles to hold. To be looked at implies a subject, a consciousness, a pair of eyes however spectral. To be watched requires no such thing. The walls themselves can watch. The ceiling can watch. The blank black glass of the television, powered down and unplugged, can watch with a patience that living eyes cannot sustain. You move to the window and the window watches you. You step into the bathroom and the mirror catches your movement a fraction too late, as if it had to search for you, as if your reflection had wandered off and needed to be called back. You close the door and the door watches you through the wood grain. It is the ceiling that breaks you. Not because it moves or speaks or reveals some impossible aperture. It is the ceiling's utter stillness, its placid, textured expanse of acoustic plaster, that finally unspools your composure. You lie in the dark, staring up at that white plane, and you understand with animal certainty that it is staring back. Not from any one point. From everywhere. The gaze is diffuse, ambient, a pressure rather than a focus. It does not need eyes because it is not a creature. It is the room itself, and the room has learned that attention is a form of possession. To be watched is to be held. To be held is to be kept. You try to evade it. You turn your face to the wall and the wall watches you. You pull the pillow over your head and the darkness inside the pillowcase watches you. You close your eyes and the gaze follows you into the red-black theater of your lids, patient and immovable, a star that never sets. You realize that the room does not blink. It does not tire. It has watched 1,000 travelers perform this same futile ritual of escape, and it will watch 1,000 more. Your attempts to hide are not strategies, they are part of the performance. The room enjoys them. And then you understand the worst of it. The gaze is not malevolent, not in the way you expect. It does not burn with hatred or hunger. It is simply curious. It watches you as a child watches an ant cross a pavement, with idle, patient fascination, without malice and without mercy. You are an object of interest to the architecture. A brief diversion. A flicker of movement in a long, still afternoon. The room does not need to harm you. It only needs to see you. And it will keep seeing you, long after you have checked out and driven to the airport and flown home to your safe, ordinary life. It will see you in the beige carpet of your own bedroom. It will see you in the black mirror of your powered-down computer monitor. It will see you in the ceiling above your bed, that same textured expanse of acoustic plaster, and you will lie there in your own home and know, with absolute certainty, that you are still in room 666. The gaze never left. It only waited for you to notice it had followed you home. Every room carries memory, not the clean, catalogued memory of architecture, the date of construction, the name of the architect, the invoice for the HVAC replacement in 2003, but something older, stickier, more intimate. The walls absorb. They drink the sweat of fevered sleep, the salt of tears shed into starched pillowcases, the microscopic detritus of panic sloughed from skin like dead cells. We think of hotel rooms as blank slates, wiped clean between guests, sterilized with bleach solutions and fresh linens. We imagine the chambermaid erases the previous occupant with the same efficient strokes she uses to smooth the duvet. But trauma does not rinse away. Trauma is oil-based, it repels water and ammonia and quaternary ammonium compounds. It seeps into the grout, the unprimed drywall, the raw wood of the headboard. It waits. Room 666 has hosted 1,000 panics. Not murders, necessarily. Not the dramatic violence that draws police tape and news crews. The room's specialty is quieter. It collects the panic of the businessman who woke at 3 a.m. and could not remember which city he was in, who sat on the edge of the bed with the phone in his hand and no one to call. It holds the despair of the bride who locked herself in the bathroom an hour before the ceremony, her forehead pressed to the cool marble of the vanity, certain she had made a terrible mistake. It treasures the breathless terror of the child who woke from a fever dream and screamed for a mother who was downstairs in the casino, feeding 20s into a machine that flashed blue lights and promised nothing. These are not spectacular horrors. They are the small, intimate apocalypses of ordinary life. But they accumulate. They layer, one atop another, like sediment at the bottom of a still lake. And they do not degrade. You feel this accumulation the moment you enter. It is not a memory you can access directly, you will never know the names or faces of those who came before. But your body knows. Your body, that ancient instrument tuned by millions of years of evolutionary vigilance, reads the residue of past terror in the same way a dog reads the history of a fire hydrant. You cannot articulate what you sense, but you respond to it. Your shoulders tighten, your breathing shallows, your eyes track the corners of the room with a scanning frequency that has no object. You are not afraid of anything you can name. You are afraid of the fear itself, which lingers in the room like cigarette smoke in a curtain, invisible but acrid, coating your tongue in the inside of your lungs. This is the room's true toxicity. It is not haunted by spirits but by states. The ghost of room 666 is not a woman in white or a shadow man at the foot of the bed. It is the ghost of a feeling, the cold electrical surge of adrenaline, the sick drop of the stomach, the sudden certainty that something terrible is about to happen. These are contagious. They pass from guest to guest like a virus, transmitted not by cough or touch but by the porous membrane of the air itself. Each new occupant breathes in the panic of the last and exhales their own, adding to the reservoir. The room is not a vessel that contains fear. It is a generator that metabolizes it. It takes the raw feedstock of human dread and transforms it into something else, something patient and purposeful. You lie in the dark and feel the weight of all those previous nights pressing down on you. The mattress is soft, compliant, only 5 years old. But it remembers. It remembers the man who lay here staring at the ceiling until dawn, trying to calculate whether his wife would leave him when she found out. It remembers the woman who curled into a fetal position and cried until her contacts adhered to her eyeballs. It remembers the teenager who hid here for 3 hours, too terrified to call his parents and admit he had been arrested. They are not here. They checked out, or were carried out, or simply walked away and never returned. But the shape of their terror remains, a negative space carved into the atmosphere, and you are lying down inside that hollow. You are wearing the skin of their dread. It fits you better than your own. The room has been collecting these residues for years, distilling them, concentrating them, waiting for a guest sensitive enough to receive the full transmission. Tonight, that guest is you. The room has prepared this fear for a long time. It has been saving it, just for you. The air conditioner is the first.